Good morning, everyone. So let's start. Uh, just before we start, I just wanted to get a raise of hands to see how many folks. So given this is a tutorial, so just to see how many folks have laptops and everything with them. Okay, cool. So if not, you can try to pair up with someone on a different table so that you can probably see things. And the other thing is we'll try to set things up as like, so this is a 4-part tutorial, and given we have only 1.5 hours, it's a bit of a short of a time. So we'll try to complete as much as possible, but if not, in that scenario, like we have the tutorial online, we created the steps online so that you can follow at home as well. And I'll be sharing my details as well. So in that case, you can ping us in case you are stuck somewhere, and at the comfort of your home, you can try to complete the whole tutorial. And with that, let's start with the Flatcar Container Linux deep dive. Here I'll be discussing on how you can, I'll be giving a short intro and demo on how you can deploy and manage your workloads. The goal is to get you familiarized with Flatcar on how the whole update, how the OS looks like, how the update works, and etc. Now, so the agenda is that, as I mentioned, like a small intro, and then we would be talking about container OS because Flatcar is and container OS falls into a category of a range of container OSs, and then we will be talking about the core pillars of container OSs, which is like minimalism, speed, security, and immutability. And then finally, I'll be talking about the bit about Flatcar Container Linux, and then we'll deep dive into the tutorial. Cool. So before going ahead, let me introduce myself. I am Sayan Chowdhury. I have been working on Flatcar for the past 5 years now. I joined the Flatcar team on April of 2020. It was just after the COVID lockdown happened, but it has been a very fun and a bumpy and a very learning experience working on Flatcar team. And I primarily work for Microsoft under the Azure org, and but my job responsibilities is primarily on Flatcar. And my responsibility in Flatcar is primarily to look around the releases. We conduct very frequent releases. That is, the cadence for releases is 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks you would see like our channels gets really busy talking about like how do we get the releases, if there are blocker bugs and everything, and get the release done. And okay, so to set things right, you probably have heard of this phrase, cattle and not pets. If not, so the idea around here is that if you have probably heard, like if you have a pet, you try to give the pets their comfort, try to give them a name, or like take care of them in general. But in the cattle scenario, what happens is that if there's probably a farm out there in somewhere, and they have a lot of cattle, and they are probably kept there for doing a particular job, and that's the sole responsibility of the cattle. And if something goes wrong with the cattle, they are probably replaced with a different cattle. And this is where we translate this to, in this age of microservices, that there is like a mutable and immutable infrastructure, with mutable infrastructure being you personally log into the server, see what's wrong and what went wrong, try to fix that problem. You probably have a name to your server, but as in on the immutable side of servers, what you do is that if something goes wrong, you try to fix the root cause, remove the particular server, destroy it, and spawn up a new one with the fix. So this is the base idea around the usage of Flatcar, and we will see on how we can utilize this fact. Now, why do we need container OS? So in this, as I mentioned, to follow the immutability factor, usually there was around 5-6 years back, there was a initiative on how we can, because there was a uptake on the number of containers getting used in the industry. So there was like in the OS side of things, people started to build an OS very specific to to cater the needs of the infrastructure. So the functionality of a container OS primarily is around like the 4 pillars, which is like minimalism, speed, security, and immutability. What that means is that from what I mean by minimalism is that uh, the OS is a very stripped down version. It does not have a package manager and contains only the packages that are required to run your container workloads. Ideally the idea is here that you would be uh, if you need to do something with a package, in that scenario, if you need a particular package, then you do it via container and not touch the OS layer itself. But we are working on new initiatives to help the users fetching, instead of running containers, you can these days use a system extension. The next thing that goes into, okay, so this is what I was talking about. So you have the minimal package set. The next thing is like the minimal human interaction, which I talked about. Like you really don't touch your infrastructure. You basically deploy and forget the OS layer, and you really don't SSH into it. And the other thing is that given it's very minimal, the idea is to utilize as less resources as possible by the container OS. The next thing is speed. So we focus on a few of the things that, because you would probably killing your servers and then spawning up new ones. So we definitely need a very high boot speed. So we try to optimize the boot speed. We try to optimize the configs for OS configs for container workloads, and try to have very faster deployments. The other factor is security. So security is one of the top-notch list, is one of the one item that is on top of the pillar. So ideally what is like, the immutability factor is there. So the immutability, what it means that the whole OS is, the USR partition is read-only, so you cannot really install or write things into it. So which helps reducing the attack surface more. So you would, a lot of, suppose there are 100 CVs out there, most of them would not affect because of the less number of packages and the read-only nature of the file system. So a lot of the CVs does not affect the container OSs. The next thing is automatic updates, where once you have deployed, as I told, like we do a releases almost at 2 weeks cadence. So in that scenario, what happens is that once the servers has booted up with a container OS, it would keep automatically updating. And if different OSs have different update strategies, but somehow or the other, they will try to roll back to a previous version so that your container workload is safe. And two other thing is giving a secure runtime and following the principle of least privilege. As I talked about, immutability is already touched upon. So we, as the USR partition is immutable, so there are other ways you have to work through so that you can use a container OS. And with that, I would like to introduce a few of the containers OSs out there. So you have like Flatcar Container Linux, you have Micro OS, you have Photon OS, you have Bottle Rocket, you have Talos, and others. But given I'm from Flatcar, so I'll be going in deep with Flatcar. So about Flatcar Linux. So Flatcar essentially was forked out of CoreOS Container Linux, which is brought in from two different, which also has a lineage from two other OSs, which one from Gen 2, which provides the package base for Flatcar Container Linux, and the Chrome OS, which gives the update mechanism where we auto update things. So if you use Android and stuff, so it uses this Omaha protocol, and we use the almost the same spec to follow it for our update engine. So this is kind of the lineage. So the project was born in 2018, and since then we have been, and since 2020 we have been doing very heavy changes back to upstream as well on our side to make Flatcar as user-friendly as possible. Now, talking about the releases, so we have, so one thing is that we always move forward. So we have an epoch timestamp, which is July 1st, 2013. And since then, we have been moving forward. So for example, if there's a release on today, so we will calculate the number of days since July 1, 2013, and that usually is our release number. So we do every 2 weeks alpha release, and once in every in every 1 month we try to do a beta release, and every 4 months we try to do a stable release, and then it gets promoted to LTS. LTS has a life cycle of so every year we conduct LTS release, and the LTS release is primarily was introduced because the main OS, the stable, is so fast. Every 4 months we are having a stable release, and you would notice that there is a huge number of packages getting updated. And there were feedbacks from the community that if you can provide with a release that is a bit more, has a bigger release cadence, so that's where LTS came into the picture. And it has a support cycle of 18 months, but usually we have seen we keep it until the until the next LTS release happens. So for example, we do our LTS 2024. This would be supported until we release the LTS 6 months after LTS 2025. And but what we have seen is that we end up supporting an LTS for almost like 24 months approximately. Now, just to talk about a bit on the releases, as in like we encourage people are usually on stable, but we encourage people to have their deployments on beta and stable, beta and alpha as well, because of knowing about the changes beforehand. But we usually see people having stable and beta for their deployments. Now let's get hands-on. So if you have laptops, please take out your laptops, and we will see on how we can, we will try to get a tutorial up and see how we can do things. Now, okay, so you would need as in like we would run a QEMU instance, so you would need a couple of packages installed in there. But if not, you can totally follow it. And as I mentioned that this is definitely doing a Linux workshop is usually a bit difficult. So we have built steps around it so that even if you can follow now, you can try to go back and try to do it at your home again. So I'll show you on how you can follow if not here. So. Yeah. Yeah. No, no. So it's actually the opposite way around. So you have the container OS is primarily the host OS. So, for example, if you are spawning up a Ubuntu server or Fedora server, this is just to so Flatcar is the host OS. On top of this, the container runs. So we are tackling the problem where we are trimming down the traditional OS also, so that the host OS also gets very slimmed down and minimal. So we support a lot of platforms. It's there on major cloud providers. We support around 50 cloud providers, like on the major like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. We are there on the marketplaces, so people can just use from the marketplace. And for others, for example, DigitalOcean is not there on the list, but then you can we build the DigitalOcean image, so you can just import it into DigitalOcean and then spin up volume. So then for example, I'll be showing OpenStack, so you can do OpenStack as well. So there are multiple cloud providers that are supported, and we are adding, like last year we added like support for 3-4 more providers. So every year we are adding more and more providers. So yeah, yes, you can do that. Are you all folks connected to the internet? Yeah. What happened? So if you search for Flatcar docs tutorial or Flatcar tutorial over the internet, you will find this particular page, which is flatcar.org slash flatcar.org slash docs slash latest slash tutorial. So it presents a Flatcar tutorial page. It's a if you see on the left hand side, it's a 4-section tutorial which talks about discovery, provisioning, deploying, and updating. This after you use this, you will get an idea on how the whole Flatcar works, or in general a container OS works, and then you can probably use replicate the whole setup into like maybe some other cloud providers. So with this, let's get into hands-on first. If you notice here, also to mention, we have GitHub tutorial as well. So if you search for GitHub Flatcar tutorial, you see a Flatcar repo. This is the one. So this is the Flatcar repo and the Flatcar tutorial on it. So you can clone this repo on your local machine, and then we have the same steps mentioned in the README as well. So let me just bring my terminal in here. Is the font visible to the back? Yeah, cool. So I have the Flatcar already cloned. So if not, then you can do git clone. Wait. So you can run this command. So you can run this command, just omit the pound sign, and you can try to run this command on the terminal and let me know how thing goes. Let me know. Feel free to raise hands if you have any questions as well. I'll come down and try to help. Just this is the beginning step, so you can try to do a git clone of this, and then we can move into the tutorial. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So the question is like, what is the comparison of Flatcar with Talos, right? Yeah. So Talos is also a Kubernetes operating system. Container OS, and Flatcar is also a container OS. One of the major differences is that Talos is very focused for Kubernetes only, and whereas Flatcar, so they only support the Kubernetes stack, whereas Flatcar, on the other hand, you can run other container workloads as well. So that's one of the primary differences. So again, it depends on the use case, and Talos in general, if you have like, it's more stripped down. So it's more minimal. So if you have just the use case for Kubernetes, you can probably go with Talos. But if you have more complicated one and you have more components in your workloads, in that case you can use Flatcar. So that's one of the primary difference. Yeah. we haven't done. There's not anything, nothing like that hasn't published. But maybe like if we can, that's a good question actually. So we can probably open up maybe a issue and see on our Flatcar and see like have a documentation for people to actually have some basically the data to maybe compare and think on how they can use it. Correct. Correct. Yes. So that's a very good suggestion. I'll probably take this up and create. So so this is something has been in last few months. We did a couple of workshops and realized that definitely people want a comparison matrix kind of a thing and see how everything performs. So definitely start with something with comparison, then let user community come into the picture and ask for the data, and we then provide them with that particular data. So that is a good feedback. And I would just like let you know that we also do a developer meetings. So that is also a good point to come down, and we also include other people like Federal Core OS folks also join our meeting, and we do there. So there's a cross communication happening within the container OSs. So in that scenario, like you can uh, you can talk in there as well. So in general, we can have a discussion on how people are using, because there are also people who are actually using probably Flatcar on OpenStack or other cloud providers. So you can have the discussion there because they can tell what's the scenario. But we can have a separate on our side as well to have the docs. Yeah. Usually, we usually recommend to use a container provided via container. But yesterday I have talked around system extensions. So that is a feature that very recently got released in systemd. And what you do is that you try to build a system extensions and place it on top of the read-only file system, and then it only contains the binary. So when you do a merge, you can see the binaries at a particular location. You can access those binaries just like a normal. It's on you. You can choose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. So you will get the choices. Again, these are again we have few of them are by default, but enabled by default. Few of them are disabled but are present. But you can like turn on, turn off, and while provisioning, you can do it. No, no, no. It's the same image. Yes, yes, yes. Correct. Are you for anyone tried this one? If not, then I'll probably switch on how to do the workshop, and probably if you folks are not able to do this in that scenario, what I'll do is I'll probably go through the videos and demo on how we did those things, so that you can probably go back home and follow. That would be much better. So okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll open the demo up. So for future reference, so if you see here, every in the Flatcar tutorial, if you open the directories, the hands-on directories, you will find a file called demo.cast, which is a ASCII file. So if you install ASCII package on your Linux machine, you can run ASCII play, I guess is the command, and you can run the demo.cast file, and it will show exactly the steps written down in the demo. So it actually lists down the commands and the output. So this is one way you can actually get acquainted. But we also have like a recording of the ASCII. So I'll just play that thing. Yes. So what we did now is we created a Flatcar directory in here, and if you see at the top, you will see the stable.flatcarlinux.net AMD64. This is AMD64 image, and we download a helper script. So this is a QEMU helper script that we have, so that you don't have to set up the network and everything. In the helper script, you have to just run the helper script, and then the next step is we are downloading a QEMU image. QEMU is one of the, because you cannot really do a lot of testing on different cloud providers. Like, you don't have, a lot of people don't have AWS or Azure or other cloud accounts. So in that case, what happens best is, like, you can run your local VM and test things or run things or get the nature of how things would be. And for us as well, we do most of our testing locally on QEMU, and then we once things look good, we start on our CI. So yeah. Okay, so ARM, we have the support for ARM. So in this scenario, what happens is it becomes ARM64, ARM64 USR, and all the images are there. UEFI is a bit difficult because then you have to pass the EFI wars and everything, the firmware and everything. So we usually recommend like the non-UEFI, the BIOS one, for people to test. This should be there. Let me check. You are trying to run it on the yeah, 1 minute. This one is there, no? Yes, then you have to, the commands change a bit. Then you have to pass in this firmware to the script. It also takes the script. It will show you which are the firmware it needs. You can run this one. So yes, for ARM you need to use the UEFI one. Yes. For local AMD 64, then you can use the normal QEMU image. I'll play it again. So it's now downloading the bzip version of the file. So once the file is downloaded, what will happen is we will unzip it and then run the image. So if you usually do, when you do a bzip to uncompress it, it takes a bit of a time, and you wouldn't have any output, but it takes a bit of a time. So at this stage, if you see the command out there, so we have uncompressed the image that we downloaded, and then we add the executable bit to the script that we download, and now we will use the script to run the image file. So it's as simple as like running flatcar the SS script and display cursors. So you see the image getting booting up. And there you go, and you now get a prompt to the, you are now inside the image. So this is like a stable 3510.21.1 release and on QEMU. And now this is a place where you can try things. You can look into how the distro looks. But for the hands-on one, what we will be doing is we will be trying to see and run an Nginx container. So as I mentioned, we don't have any package manager. So you see, what we did here is we try to run apt, we try to run yum, we try to run emerge and DNF, and you see most of the command is not there because we don't provide with any package manager. Anything you want to do is via system extension of containers. Now we are running a Docker run for Nginx. So now that the Docker run has happened, let's see. And with that, you can see that the Nginx container is running, and you can call the local host. So this is like the first part of the tutorial. Anyone is still trying their hands on the side? Then I'll pause for a moment. Can raise up a hand if you're trying the commands. No? Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. It's not a container image. It's called container OS, but it's not a container image. I definitely agree that term is confusing, and I definitely get that, but that's what the whole world calls it, and then people misconfuse it with the container image, the container OS. But correct. Yes, yes. So it's just targeted for like whatever the container runtime needs. So you would just provide those packages only. Yeah. Sorry? Red Hat UBA image. I am not. Okay, 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 got it. No, no, I don't think so. It's not the same. Yes. Azure Linux, correct. So Azure Linux is also on the similar lines. It's an RPM based. This one is a Gen 2 based one. Okay, so the question is that when I mean, yeah, go ahead. Right, 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 right. That's one of the way, yes. So you can definitely use the marketplace images and everything to spawn up an instance and then do things. The other way is there is also a way to reuse Flatcar with EKS and AKS. And then the other way is like the cluster API thing that I talked, where you just mention the image name in the config and you boot it up. Yeah. Sorry. I would need to check that. 1 minute. Let me check. This is a commentary image, so you will get the armies as well, and you can if so this is a free image, so you will get on the marketplace, and there's no payment that you need to do. There are some licensing things that you go through, but that's there in the documentation. But other than that, it's a free image. You don't have to pay anything. One is the marketplace, the other is like the community AMIs. Both you can use. Both are there. Yes. 1 minute. I'll just go with the AKS one once. I will check if it's there. So I do see the issue. If you search on Google, there is a issue on there. I don't see a documentation, but again, these are the things we would need to implement and write things then. Because I see a issue where people are asking for ARM64 support for AKS. So yeah, so that is something, and the issue is closed. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing from here. EKS, I definitely know we did that. Yeah, but the screen is not working for some reason. One minute, I'll just come back. I'll tell them this. But again, we do releases, as I mentioned, like if you see, I don't know, the screen is not working, but if you go to the Flatcar releases page, you will see that we fix CVs. That's the one reason that we do releases every 2 weeks. Any CVs that come in, we track them. If you go to our Flatcar repo, the issues repo, you will see that we actually mention what are the active security issues that we are tracking, and we continuously close them. And I did the talk on the first day where we actually talked on how we are working towards more automating the package updates so that people can get faster releases and up-to-date packages. Because security is one of the main concerns for us. To fix the CV patches, if needed, backport it. For example, the OpenSSH one. We had to actually backport it to a previous version and push it to when we did it on the release date itself. RKey to, yes, so yeah, you would have to need to do it separately. Yeah. Yes. So anything other than the OS, you would have to build like on your own, you have to build a pipeline for it and put on top of it. And that's the same for all the containers out there, be it Talos. I'm not sure, I haven't used Talos, but I've heard like they have an API based. Even the yes, we have like yeah, yeah. नहीं आ रहा भैया. Okay, so that's a bit on the history side. So what happens is that you have what happened was CoreOS had container Linux, which was brought up in probably 24, 2015, 2013, 2012, around that time, and they had it till Red Hat acquired CoreOS. And then what they did, there used to be an operating system called Fedora Atomic, and they built this technology on RPM OS tree. And so a new OS that came into the picture was Fedora. Thank you. क्या हुआ था? ये कैसे अभी connect? Oh, इससे connect किया. फिर yeah, so coming back to you, so yeah, they took the when they acquired CoreOS, they took the like the bits of like the ignition and everything from core container Linux and the RPM OS from Atomic and created Fedora CoreOS. But then our team, the Kinfolk team, had worked on Flatcar. So what they did was they wanted to continue the ideology that container Linux had, and they forked out all the repos and started building on top of it. So I actually did a history talk 2 days back. हाँ अब तो आ रहा है but इस पे कुछ okay okay right right. Correct. So they use RPM OS tree that, so they build on the whole RPM OS tree concept, like lib OS tree thing. Red Hat repository is based on RPMs. For us, it's like you can do an RPM OS tree, install a particular package. Like they also have this OS called Silverblue, which is again using RPM OS tree. On our side, it's primarily like Flatcar, where we tend to ingest the packages via Gentoo and build our packages and give you all the ecosystem from. So our source is Gentoo for the packages. So, yeah. Installable size as in? Right. Need to check 1 minute. I guess that comes around like 5 or 1 GB-ish somewhere. Yeah. Performance side of things. Yes. In that case, I would say yes. In that case, we would then need to tinker around with the kernel configs and get the whatever configs that are needed. You don't. So that's a question that I will take up because I had a similar question at the booth yesterday. What if I want to have a customized kernel into the picture? So how does that go with the secure boot and everything, and how we get a customized? So that's something I'll be discussing on and getting back. But yeah, so that's one thing that came out during the conference, that how we can customize that layer. Right, correct, correct, correct. Because one of the scenario that the person mentioned was like, I can, for other OS, I can build a spec, build an RPM and install it. So how would you do this on this one? So I would need to check on how, if what is the support. Like I can probably use a, there is a concept of developer container where you can build tools. You get an environment to do an emerge, which is a package manager for Flatcar, not Flatcar Gen 2, and you use that package manager to build things. That's how we do it for like the NVIDIA drivers. So that's probably one of the way, but I need to confirm it with the folks who work with the kernel. Yeah. So it's any container OS. The thing is that you would be so security is one of the thing, and having a very minimal OS underneath your container workloads is one of the focus areas. And there is a concept of this what do you call this, image composability that is coming up. So those are the basic factors where people end up using Flatcar, because the thing that I told about cattle versus pets thing. So if I come down to the ignition part, so there's an idea that comes into is that you would use ignition to bring Flatcar to a state where you really have the workloads running, and if you need to change anything, you just update the config, ignition config, and then create a new machine. You just throw that away. And the third factor, which was the update thing. So once you have, everything is deployed, you just, that keeps on running. You don't have to do anything, and it would, if things go wrong, it would just roll back to the previous version. So your workloads at the end of the day is safe. So we get use cases where people deploy their workloads and don't have to worry about the OS layer. Sorry? It was forked out of CoreOS, yes. But in the last 4 years, we have definitely done a lot of changes. So they used to, we have done some architectural changes. They used to use this technological cork and stuff. So those things have changed. And the other thing that has changed is like like how so development in general has become easier. We are also making more extensible so that people can use Flatcar with system extension and extractor. Those things were not there with container Linux. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that question. So we definitely create SBOM for Flatcar. You will have, like, if you search for Flatcar, it will take to your, it will take you to that page for SBOM with the guidelines on that. Yeah. Right. So I would need to get to the correct number, but that is a size we are working on. So as I mentioned, that since we forked out, so what we did was, in the first few years, we were trying to optimize Flatcar in a manner where we first make it the secure package. Because as soon as Red Hat acquired CoreOS, they stopped maintaining or updating the packages. So we had to work on updating the packages. Next was to like build a very strong release pipeline so that we can do faster releases. And the third part was primarily around like, and now that we have built a stable architecture and release pipeline, now we are working on adding more features. Like one of the features that I am working on is like adding the secure boot support, which is still not there on Flatcar. And it's definitely getting more and more traction from people. So the getting the partitioning is also one of the things we are definitely in discussion. You will see and open issues around the same, so how we can minimize that space as well so that people get more space for themselves. So we are thinking of alternatives because there is grub and everything, so everything involves a space. So we are thinking how we can re-architect things so that we can have a more minimal size. I think yes, 1 minute. I think is that still in that compliance is still in progress, or maybe we it's there for Flatcar. Yeah. The idea is that you the idea it does not really give any GUI, but again so again it has to be done via the, because we don't want people to SSH into it. One of the basic factors is we don't want people to SSH into it. We are trying to build tools around so people set up their tools to observe things on what's happening and then try to fix the ignition config. So I'll slowly move on to the next one so that people get more idea and see on how things are. So we went through this step where we talked about the disk, booted up an image. So this is one, we booted up an image and saw that how the machine works. We got a feel of it. And now if you go to the hands-on, it talks about the provisioning bit. This is where the ignition comes into the picture. So ignition is I'll go back to the slides quickly. So ignition is a tool that runs only on first boot. So it's basically like if you want to configure, because Flatcar essentially does not ship Python, so you cannot use software like Ansible and stuff. So what we do is that we use we build this tool called Ignition. This is also something we collaboratively work with Fedora CoreOS. So this tool was essentially built by the Container Linux CoreOS folks, and because we forked out of Container Linux, this is a tool we still use. And the idea here is that the ignition will run on the first boot, set the whole machine up, and get things ready for you. And the other thing is that if things are wrong on the ignition config file, it would just break. It's basically all or nothing. It would break in between, and you would have to revert back to your ignition config, see what is the issue present in there, and fix it, and then try to run the machine again. And again, it's declarative in nature. And the fourth thing is, ignition is like a JSON config, but because these days people are using more of YAML files, so there is this transpiler called Booted, which converts the YAML that you give into the JSON, and then you can feed that into while booting the image. Now, so we will see on how to provision a local Flatcar instance. Write a butane config and generate an ignition config out of it, and then boot an instance using that particular config. So for this, we have to go to the hands-on too, and you see here that we are creating so this is like a YAML config. So we are creating an index.html file which would have the contents hello world in it, and we would so now to convert this YAML file into a config.json, what we will do is that we will be using butane to do the same. And this steps is the similar one which we did in the last time. We used the helper script, and we use the helper script and then boot up a new Flatcar instance. So let's see how that converts into using the ASCII namer. So we write the config file. So this is the Nginx service config file, which we would be adding for Nginx, and this is a YAML file for the index.html which we just saw. Let's convert the YAML to config, and then this is how the JSON looks. Now we can see the Nginx service file that we actually had added into the ignition has been added, is there, and the status is that it's been running. So if you do a cat of the index.html file inside the Flatcar instance, you would notice that the file is already created, and running it would show, if you do a curl localhost, it would show hello OSS in it. So yeah, so this gives an idea on how the ignition works and how we can use ignition to configure the instances. Any questions for ignition part? Yeah. Correct. It's exactly the user data scripts. On cloud provider, you would pass it through the user data scripts, and that's why it's in JSON. And because people use YAML, you have the butane, it comes into the picture to use it. And you can so yeah, so that's what I was going into. So if you want to look more into like what are the supported things you can do, so this is based off a specification which it follows. So there are a bunch of items. So from file system management to everything, you can create, like be it file system management, be it creating passwords and everything, that can be done using Ignition. And like it hits the storage. You have RAIDs, these are the files, so everything you can do. So this is a very this is a documentation for Ignition. Now if you notice here, this is maintained by the Fedora CoreOS folks, and any patches that we have to do, we go back to the main. We basically give it to upstream, any changes that we do. So this is definitely something you can look into and configure spec. And this is one of, to let you know that this is one of the, how to say this, this is where people actually find it most difficult, because this is a very new concept with Ignition. So people take time to set this thing up. So, and I feel that for folks, this is one of the points where they're like, I don't want to move to a containerized. That's the thing. So, but people who have started using found this to be very powerful. Yeah, go ahead. No. System extensions. Then? No, you cannot. But that's where, so when I talked about system extensions, you can use Ignition to install the system extensions, and we provide now a Python system extension so that people can use that, and then you can do anything related to Python. So that is a new way that is worked on. Like we started development for that just last year. Good question. So there are two parts to it. One thing is like there are community supported, and then there are the one is the official one, and then there's the community supported one. And again, because system extension is not Flatcar specific, so you can find, so if somebody is maintaining Flatcar, a system extension for Ubuntu as well, you can port it to Flatcar too. Config? Yes, so if you go, not really. This is NixOS came back much later, but I think the ideology is kind of the same. But you can do you can do package management stuff with the NixOS configs. You cannot do with this one. So I'll show you a couple of examples. The butane config. So like for user and groups, you give the variant because there are two OSs that supports. So you have the password hash, and then you can pass on the SSH configs. If you want to have multiple of them, this is the example. Then generating password hash is there. This is the for storage and files, which we just saw. Yeah. Fiber channel, I'm not sure. Science-based strategies can probably do. We don't really, we do not really strip down kernel a lot. We mostly look from the packages perspective and not from that perspective. So our, we don't really strip down kernel a lot. I mean. Yeah. Yeah. Should be. So given its open source nature, you can probably see our kernel configs and see if it's supported or not. And then if not, then maybe like we do get requests on our issues on we would need this network. So we would then work on it, discuss, and then if not, find a solution, because we want to support more and more network stuff. So you can probably, I would suggest to go to our kernel config. It's actually here. GitHub, Flatcar scripts. Wait, config. Source this way. Should be. Let me grab it here. It's very difficult to. During testing? Yes, we do. That is not there. That is not there. But we do test. But yeah, so what I'm getting is we definitely need to add more, because we developers end up adding like things, but then the document part definitely we need to, yeah. OS modules, okay. Modules. So this is something probably you can look into and see how things are, and then maybe we can like check. Yeah. I have tried. I mean, 2 GB thing should be working. I have tried. I mean, at least the ARM image I have tried with the with the Raspberry 2 GB. It does not work that well. It works, but if I need to scale it, it has like issues. But then 2 GB machines uh, on cloud providers, I have worked with those. So yeah, those should work. So. Java, we haven't given extensions yet. So that's also like, so as I was talking about, so as mentioned, the Java, so this is a repo which was very recently created. We started working on this one because the system extension came into the picture in 2021. We worked on it probably till 2023 beginning, and then we started. Then we started building this thing. So right now, as you see here, this release that we did on 25th November, it added the tail scale system extension. So we are still adding the ones which people are requesting, but this is the community one. So people actually end up creating PRs, and there was a PR for like Vim Huge, and so people are adding PRs from the community as well as the team to add more and more system extensions. And the good thing is that there's not a single, I don't think there's any single page yet for system extensions for like people to keep system extension, and also there's no standardized way to generate them. So the different OSs are working on it. Now the thing is that if somebody else has created a Java system extension, you can probably try it working on this one. So you can actually move the. It's not dependent on OS, the system extension. Anyone that supports the systemd should able to use this one. Not yet. So this is one discussion that's spawned up this year, like how we can standardize this whole thing. So right now we maintain a couple of them. This is the one, as I mentioned, is maintain it through the community ones, and few we build it during, like the ones we added to the rootfs, those things we maintain via our CI. So that gets posted actually into the stable release with all the images. So people can like those are the official ones. These are the ones which are like the community set ones. So we have like K3s, we have the Kubernetes as well. Yeah, we have the Kubernetes, we have Olama, we have NVIDIA. We used to have NVIDIA through the system container one. We moved it very recently to into here. So you have the RK2 here as well. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Not right now. We haven't started discussing. It's just that people have started posting, maybe because the thing is we are definitely a small team, and one of the reason for getting into CNCF was getting like Flatcar was recently got accepted. So one of the thing was to get the community exposure and work with people to understand the requirements, and then work with different, like we right now very heavily work with the cluster API group. So that's to like work with them to make cluster API and Flatcar integration better, as well as help others as well. So similarly work with ML work groups, like I met a couple of folks during the maintainer summit as well as during the conference. So taking those relationships forward and working on how we can embrace those, because those are the future, and people will definitely come up in the future asking like how I can run. Sure. Even more than Slack channel, I'll definitely encourage you to join the developer sync meetings, because there we definitely have a face-to-face discussion with community as well. Sure, yeah. I'll go back to the third one. I don't know how much time is. Okay, we have like 10 minutes. Okay. So on the third one, we have the deploying. So yeah, so this is like if you want to deploy via the Terraform. So this is like standard Terraform init, Terraform plan, and then you apply. Now let's look through the demo on and see how we can, how it does. So primarily we have in that repo, the tutorial 3, we have, so we use this, what is called that? The OpenStack instance, no, next. Sorry, yeah, so I just recall. So we have a dev stack created. So this actually, so my idea during, usually when I do this tutorial is that we have a dev stack created for people, and people can actually try running the Terraform. I'll give the IP and then they would run it. So this is something we are doing. So this is on the particular dev stack instance. And we do a Terraform init. This would take some time. Since the recording things are broken, and in the last workshop, actually few of the folks actually patched the issues, and then we have Terraform plan. We see what is going to apply, and then we'll finally do a Terraform apply. Now, if you run the Terraform output, you should see the IP that the server was created, and you can probably SSH into it. We usually, what we do is that we give the instance and the password, dev stack, and then people can see what there is. If they put their SSH keys in, they can SSH and also play with the OpenStack instance. Cool. I think the last one is primarily around the updating. So now one of the main thing for which I talked was like the updating part, which is like the auto update. So this is where the deploy and forget part comes into the picture. So we have a when you boot up your Flatcar instance, there is an update engine service that keeps on running, and it keeps a check on the a release server that we have, which is called Nebraska release server. And we upload whenever we do a release, we upload our payloads to the Nebraska release server. And as soon as update engine in your Flatcar instance gets to know about it, it will pull the update and Locksmith uses a strategy, like there are a couple of reboot strategies based on what you have set in your configs. It would handle the reboot strategy accordingly. And so in the tutorial, what we do is that we pull older version of Flatcar so that we can see on how the update engine will keep a tab on the release that has newly come, and once it finds there has been a newer release, it will pull the payload and complete the release. Now, so this is, we are starting up a QEMU instance. We are checking if our update engine service and the locksmith service are running or not. We do a cat etc OS release to check what version we are on, and once it downloads, or you can forcefully you can either wait for update engine to download it, or you can use the update engine client to manually download or check the release server, which is done using the update engine client -update. And once it's done, you can do a reboot and check the OS release again. So let's see on the demo side on how this works. I can skip this one. We download an image, then we start up an instance. So this is to replicate that how your container workloads is not disturbed by the OS upgrades. So we check the status for locksmith D and update engine, and after that we try to download the upload package. So basically, it downloads the update package, and again, if you just lay it idle, then it would reboot on its own based on the reboot strategy. But then you can also again forcefully reboot as well. Let's skip this a bit, take some time. Okay, now that the payload is downloaded, and with that I think we are so we are now doing a reboot, and you see that your container workloads is definitely does not get updated. So what people do is that, so there are a few ways people manage this. So either folks, what they do is they listen to the Nebraska one, or if they have like an on-prem or something, they because Nebraska is again like an open source tool, so they set up their own update Nebraska server, and they manage their payloads themselves, and then their whole clusters get updated. But essentially, this is like how you get the feel of the whole cycle, from booting up an instance to maintaining your workloads to seeing on how the update engine works. But I definitely recommend folks to go through like this tutorial on themselves so that you can actually try things on your machine, and if there are failures, you can revert back to us. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. So, around the scanning part, usually what I have seen is that people request the list of packages and the version number so that they can just track the package version to the package version to like check with the scanner, and then if there is a discrepancy, sometimes we backport it, so people just drop an email to our security channel that this is the version that you said is patched with a particular CV, but it's actually not. In that scenario, we have to tell that we have actually backported because the newer version is actually unstable. So in that scenario, what we do is we so this is one package file which people keep a tap on. So this actually lists all the packages that are shipped in the production image along with their version number. So people can check on, so there are two things. So one thing is like if it's portage stable, then we are pulling it directly from Gentoo. So so there are no changes essentially from when we pull it from portage table, and the version number is again mentioned. So usually they tally this version number with the package name. And the other thing is when we mention CoreOS overlay, so in that scenario, like it's a overlay, like it's pulled from Gentoo, but then we apply our own patches on top of that. And again, like this is the metrics to understand like if there are extra patches on top of it, and again there is a version number for people to tally. But folks usually tally with the version number and see if that particular package is, that version is affected or not. And the other thing that people usually check is also check is the releases web page. So if you see for every release, we publish which are the CVs that which are getting fixed. For example, the last Linux upgrade that we did, there was a huge number of CVs that got fixed in this particular release. There is like curl, there was one CV, libarchive, NVIDIA drivers, OpenSSH, and then for the sysx as well, which we officially support for them, these are the packages that, which are the CVs that got fixed. And we also mentioned the version numbers here as well, about which all the packages are getting upgraded and to which version number. The other thing is, suppose it's not mentioned in the our list of CVs, so this links actually to the actual change log for that particular package. So people can look into this as well. So this is only when you are seeing that there's a discrepancy between your scanner and you're not getting the input. So this is when people come on to your website to check if the CVs were fixed or not. But But that layer comes, so is there any container based scanner which you can use the containers to have like do that container scanning? Because I think for us, we don't say how the container thing people use. So that is totally on the user side. Hmm. 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 That is something we don't like. We let the people to handle that. We don't do anything on that end. Understood. But that's the thing. So we would need to check how people do it. We definitely know people use Qualys and everything on Flatcar. So maybe we can look into that and see on how people use it and provide their case studies or how installation docs on how people do it. But yeah, so we do 1 minute. Let me check. There's a page, Flatcar security supply mechanism, and from this, from this you can probably get a bit of the data, but again, like I'm not sure how the use case is, so they can um, to check how your setup is. So probably we can have a discussion on the same. Stop. Yes. Yes. No, you can just stop the release. And so the thing is always moving forward. We never backport it. So you can just stop a release at a one point of time, and then you can say that when you see that you want to you keep a track on the releases through RSS or something, and see what are the changes coming in. And because we publish this whole package set in there, so you can have your own tools in there to track your track what packages version you want or to bump to. And using that data, you can what you can do is that once you see that this is I want to update it now, you can update it. But the only concern is that if there's a huge gap, then you probably would need to see it. Usually, like for example, now we have it jumps directly to the latest one. So for example, this one, uh, like we are ending the support of C groups V1 in early 2025. Though C groups V2 has become the de facto, people are still using C groups V1. So notifications like this keep on coming out like once or twice a year. And this is a thing which you probably need to monitor and see that you have your update strategies in place. But people do, yes. So these are few of the like the update how to manage your update and the and track it. But usually a lot of people even stop the service and not update it. You can just use Ignition to maybe alter those things, the update files, and then not let the server not update on its own. So those things people definitely do, but there's a problem also. We have seen like people sticking to a very long, like 3-4 years older version, and then asking we would upgrade, and then things start to break, and then we have to like work with them in the Flatcar issues to help them migrate to a newer version. So, so yeah, as I told, like you can like use the Ignition config itself to see what your strategy and everything would be. Correct. So one of the issues was like because when container Linux, we forked out of container Linux, Grub was at a very older version. So we had to update Grub to the various latest version. It took us some time. And then adding the support, working on shim support with all the patches and everything with our current structure. And then you have the, like, you have to go through all the, like, having the keys and everything. And because we are a remote team, it becomes a very difficult, because I am the only person in India, I manage the releases and the whole team sits in Germany. So how we distribute the keys and everything, I just got my update key after, like, I've been working from 2020. I got my, like, the update key just a few months back because I was in Germany to pick up the key personally. Because you have to have that, you cannot trust the, like, it has to be very secure, no? So in the sense that key as in like the signing tokens and everything, those things. Yes, it's a physical device. The hardware tokens. Again, you don't know, you cannot trust the, yeah. Yes, but then again, those are the things. I mean, even with Fedora, they have a very secure. They also do it handover physically. Even if you see Alma Linux's documentation, they also have like a secure. Usually for secure boot and update signing, they use this method to hand over in person. Now the thing is that we are almost there. We actually we are on the verge of submitting our shim for review. And once that process is done, there's a few more questions. So for getting the secure boot, you need to get the shim signed. And in that process, you have to fill out a questionnaire to the same reviewers that this is how we do things, this is which are the patches we carry for Linux or Grub. And what happens is, there are few questions that keep on getting added. So there's one question that got added, and we are working on with CNCF to get answers for that. Once that's done, we submit our shim for review. But we have tested on Azure and QEMU and other providers the shim, our secure boot with developer keys, and things are working. So once we get the shim signed, we will just add the newer image support. Yeah, I have been working on the secure boot support for almost 2 years now. So with the Grub update shim, thank you. This is the part of my job only. Flatcar is the work that I do at Microsoft. It's yes. So the team that started Flatcar was Kinfolk, but in 2021 Microsoft acquired Kinfolk, and that's how we ended up. And now, just in November, Flatcar got incubated into CNCF. Incubation. Yes. So, yeah, I'll just wrap up. So, availability on cloud providers, like we are available in most of the cloud providers. If you see the page that I saw the images, you'll see all the images there. If it's not there on the cloud providers list, you'll definitely have an image for it and you can use it. But we are working with different cloud providers to add the support via the UI so that people can use it in much more easier manner. We went through the deployment update, but this is the communication channel. So we are there we do our bi-weekly meetings, one office hours, and another is developer sync. In office hours, what we do is that we talk with the community. If somebody is using Flatcar or have done something new with Flatcar, they come up and present a talk. And on the developer sync, we talk about what are the milestones or what are the areas we are working on. We heavily use Matrix for our discussions, but we are also there on the Kubernetes Slack and the CNCF Slacks as #Flatcar. So you can be there on both and ask questions or have any areas you want to contribute to personally, so you can use these communication channels. With that, I think that's... Yes. No, we are a team. We are actually a very small team, like 8 people, core maintenance team, and 2 of them are actually non-Microsoft employees. and our aim is to have have more people from outside Microsoft maintaining Flatcar, but that's like the overarching goal that we have. It's similar to how so we are employed by Microsoft definitely, and that's I think the investment that is doing, and also like this is one. I mean, Microsoft is also definitely like pushing for open source a lot in the recent times, and this is one of the way like having a community project out there for people to use from Microsoft. And I guess the same terminal thing we can get it to like how Red Hat has Fedora, yeah, the Fedora folks are employed by Red Hat, and but Fedora is like a community OS. There are outside people who are contributors who are contributing to Fedora on a regular basis. So yeah. Yeah, correct. Definitely, definitely. So yes, so that's definitely a thing because you would need to talk with our higher ups and everyone to make that big change. So that's why I talked about the developer sync meeting. There we talk about the roadmap. We I had that on the last slide. So this is me. You can reach me on my email or on my Twitter handle, which is Yudoka, or Gmail at yudoka.in. Or like I am there on the Matrix channel, on the Slack channel, so you can contact me there as well. I'll just quickly show the roadmap one. So one of the things that we do is that we do everything in the open. Like we try to get the community involved. So we have like this project board. So we have this project tactical release planning and roadmap board. So what we do is like what are the things we are working on currently. Like if you see the secure boot work stream, it's been 2022 and we have been hitting one checkpoint by the other. So people ask questions here when they search, they get this question. So that's one thing. There are other initiatives that we have been working on, and these are the things that are queued for release or are going to the next releases. We just we will cutting out a new release, so you don't see anything on the release thing. And then this is the release. So what is going on to the next release? So in this board, you can see the release that we'll be doing on the 16th of December. These are the things that would be getting added into it. Now talking about the roadmaps section. So every few months we talk about like take a big investment on like what our goal is. So right now our goal was having a composable OS. So these are the action items. So there is these are the work that has been going on for the, like it takes time, and these are the long-term goals that we have to have a composable OS. So these are the issues that are being worked on. Then we have the secure boot and trusted. So this usually is the big tracking issue for us. And then the other thing was the CNCF one where we just got into incubator. So this was another thing. So similarly, just a few months back, we had SysX as one of the things, but as we got SysX into Flatcar, it got removed, but we have now composable OS coming into the picture. So this is how we maintain our roadmaps, but they're usually 1 to 2 years long roadmap planning that we do. Yes, so if you no, if you have issues, you can directly create a PR directly. There's no need to create. So this is the place where we track all the issues. We track all the issues, as I was talking before, like the security thing. So we track all the CVs that are coming and needs to be fixed. And this is if you want to contribute via issues or features requests. So this is the place. But if not, then you can definitely try out, like what people do is that they go, there's a development doc, like if a developer wants to contribute, how they can contribute. So in that scenario, you can set things up, because you would need that development environment and try to contribute through the through code. So and it would end. Yeah. So in that case, like in that scenario, like it would be like. Website. Hard to see. Yeah. So this is the Flatcar website. So you can, it's a simple Hugo document, Hugo website, static website. So we have data in content. You can go. You have the docs and latest, and you can start adding the document. We haven't done a bug smashing and a documentation day in a long time, because we definitely feel that every few months we are lagging behind with the documentation, because we keep adding features but lag behind with the documentation. What we used to do is that we have a documentation day or 2 days focused on documentation, but we definitely haven't done that in a very long time, probably not in last 1 year. So I think our documentation day is due soon. But I think this is one place where you can contribute to via docs. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.